West Tigers podcast for episode number 330. Unfortunately, another post-loss edition of the West Tigers podcast. The latest, the 8th straight loss for the Tigers, going down 42 points to 28 to the Cowboys, that first game on Friday evening. The one-word submissions from the West Tigers podcast forum. Let's have a look here. Mike says, sad. That's Mike's word. The game was over after 17 minutes. Matt V. Tiger, clean out. He says, we're not big, fast, or strong enough. NatMac78. Interesting one from NatMac78. Toyota. He says the scoreline was like Toyota Cup days. I thought that might have had something to do with the fact that the Tigers are very reliable. You could always rely on them to disappoint you. Just like, Toyota's renowned for reliability. That's where my mind went. Rach09, incapable. We're incapable of playing 80 minutes. And also came back with Appy. Where would we be without him? Good ones. The Last Ronin, DeLorean, i.e. a time machine to get to better days. That's what we need. It'd be nice if we could fast forward through to being more competitive. Tiger 5150, character, a short turnaround, staying in Queensland after 20 minutes down by 20 points. The 22-23 side would have folded. Canberra Tiger roller coaster, the ups and downs of being a Tiger. We have some green shoots but need to drain the swamp. JH98 Youth, they had a great game, but it's the shredder for Declan Casey. Logan R21 pass mark. Frullins turning point. Tigers men deceptive. We've won 63 minutes of the game, however it never looked like we were on top. Snake, got to be careful with this one. Snake's word was coming, and Snake says a few wins are coming up. Okay, so if you don't have a dirty mind. Tiger Ton gritty. This team has fight. Russ Tuddy forget. In other words, forget footy for a week. That will be nice. Very much looking forward to the bye. And Tiger Symmetry. Perseverance. We must persevere and persist with our direction. So lots and lots of one-word submissions there. Gary, Steve, and Eddie on the podcast this evening. Hello to you, Gary. How you doing? And have you come up with one word yet?
Yeah, I actually forgot all about one word until I was just listening to all those ones that we went through. I'm not bad, thank you, Joel. I did skip that part. But for me, my one word comes down to probably youth. I thought our better players the other night were the younger players. And I think there are, someone said green shoots, and I think there are some green shoots in those younger guys that we do have coming through. So some of the older guys, I think, are letting us down at the moment, and that's probably where that clean-out idea is coming from. But I think some of the younger guys showed that they do have a future in the NRL.
Steve, we haven't seen you for a while. You've been off on other pursuits. There was all these rumours that I was going to a different podcast or something like that, but I had concerns that maybe you were going to pop up on another West Tigers podcast somewhere. But anyway, you're here right now. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Joel. Yes, I am here. And no, I haven't been off on other podcasts, and I haven't been banned from social media either, Joel. So that's a bonus. Look, I'm going to break with tradition, and I'm going to actually have one word, and I'm going to try to keep it light. So my one word is spuddle. Okay, spuddle. Wow. SPUDDLE. Now, I've got to do a bit of research on that. So if you look that up in a dictionary, it'll say to loosen and dig up weeds, right? And that could be a bit of a throw to our recruitment, right? To loosen and dig up weeds. But if you go a little deeper and research a little bit further, a second definition of spuddle is to fuss about trivial things. And I immediately thought of our boardroom in past times, so I thought it was relative there. But then, Joel, when I was reading through my 17th century literature, as I'm prone to do, I came across this definition: to work ineffectively, to be extremely busy whilst achieving absolutely nothing. And I thought that has got to be the word of the week.
Well, maybe not the word of the week, but the word of the last 25 years for the West Tigers. It's just been a big spuddle.
I thought you were going to say it was the word of like the last 3 centuries ago, because that's where Steve dug it from.
Exactly. Eddie, I've got to point something out to you. I don't know if you You're not a geography teacher, clearly, because you you made me laugh on that midweek podcast last week when you said the Tigers were going to jump on a bus from Brisbane to Townsville. I thought, does Eddie know where Townsville is?
Joel, it's funny you say that because my grandparents were from Maryborough, which is not as north as Townsville, but up north Queensland. And every Christmas when I was much younger, we used to get on the bus or get on the train up to up north, and it was 4 or 5 hours. So that's just where my head went. But you haven't provided me with any evidence that they didn't get the bus from Brisbane to Townsville. Maybe they should be getting the bus if they're getting beaten every week, Joel.
Yeah, well, it would have taken up a lot of that 4-day intermission between the two games. It's a long way. What's your one word for the Cowboys game, please?
I just went with outclassed. I didn't have a particularly interesting word this week. It's just, 9 times out of 10, or every time we go on the field, Joel, we are outclassed in terms of our roster. And I had that doomsday prediction on Friday, and after 20 minutes, I thought, well, my 58-16 prediction is looking a bit light. We're going to cop a 74-0 like we did last year. But, we won the last 65 minutes, 28-22. I know that's small fry for some fans that are fed up, but this side has definitely shown some character throughout the first 11 rounds this year, even if the wins aren't coming.
Yeah, that's a good one too. You could certainly see that in the centres. Val Holmes had a big game for sure. I've got a couple. I've got 28, which is the points that we scored, which is pretty amazing. We managed to break that 12 or 14 points, which is great. So that gives us a little bit of hope. It is possible. We've now proven that point. I've got youngsters as my one word. I've got 38 as my other one word, which is now we have slipped after that loss to the Cowboys. We have slipped as a club to an overall winning percentage of just 38%, which I think is on par with the Gold Coast Titans, which is the equal worst in the NRL period, which is really depressing, especially if you took out 05 and 09 and 010, our better years. Very, very, very disappointing. Not 09, 010 and 11. So long ago, I can't remember. When were we good? Gary?
Yeah, we're all right in 09, but 10 and 11 were our last semi-finals.
And I've got 9, and that is I actually missed the first 9 minutes. And the reason why I missed the first 9 minutes is I was watching on KO, and I'm sitting there and I'm being tortured by the Fox Sports coverage. And I'm thinking to myself, this is weird. Why hasn't the game started? And somehow my KO got out of sync. So I actually missed the first 9 minutes. So I went back in and hit watch from live. And I've got to say, that Fox coverage, gee, they go on with a lot of garbage. But I hit watch from live, and there it is after 9 minutes. We're down 12-0. So that was a very concerning thing. And yes, after 20 minutes, I was starting to think we're looking at a point a minute from the Cowboys. But we did get back into the game, which was great to see. A little bit of news before we dive into that Cowboys game. Api Coruscant not selected by Michael Maguire for Origin 1. Stefano Utoikamanu also not selected for Origin 1. Any surprises there with those omissions, Steve? Did you think maybe Api might sneak in?
Yeah, I'm not surprised Stefano missed out. He's played some good football this year, but I think anyone who's fair-minded would say he's been fairly inconsistent at best. He certainly hasn't dominated week in, week out. So I'm not surprised. I'm very surprised that Api's not there. I feel really sorry for him because he's absolutely busted his gut. He's played outstanding football. I can probably see why he can miss a tackle up the middle. He can be weak defensively, and maybe in the pace of State of Origin and how tight State of Origin is, you just can't go with that, and that's Maguire's thinking. So I can understand it, but I think he's exceptionally unlucky because his leadership and his work around the ruck and the way he gets a forward pack moving forward is ideal for Origin, I would have thought.
I think the big part about his missing tackles really comes down to the fact that we're overplaying him. He tends to miss tackles as he gets a little bit tired, and I think we've been I don't think he should be playing 80 minutes for us. So not only are we overplaying him and it affects him during the game, I think it affects him week to week. And I think we've done him a disservice with that, and I think that's why he's missed a few tackles. I thought he deserved to be there. The commitment that he shows week in, week out, it's all hard, and that's really what Origin is about, and I think he's that perfect Origin player. So I do feel a bit sorry for him tonight because I think he deserved to get that hooker spot.
Luai picked it number 6. I wanted to see him and Luai maybe potentially get back together and see what they could have formed. I suppose if we're selfish, Eddie, that's in a way a little bit positive for us. Not that we're playing for much, but if you know what I mean, at least we're going to get the use of those guys.
Yeah, just back on Appy, I've just got a theory that maybe a bit like Robbie Farah, he's probably, I don't know if this is trying to get inside Madge's head, which is difficult, but maybe he's a difficult dummy half to play with. You know, when you've only got 4 or 5 days of preparation, because he's creative, because he likes to show and go and he likes to hold the ball up at times. And I've noticed that a little bit with our halves this year. He's that good that occasionally they're a little bit confused when they're going to get the ball. And Origin, you know, Farah was criticised for similar things. And Reece Robson's very much a, you know, get the ball off the ground, get it to your halves type of hooker, tackle hard. Nowhere near as good an attacking player as Appy. But that might be the reason. No surprises, obviously, with Stefano. Just hasn't quite been up to that level. And, yeah, Jerome Luai, very good on the weekend. That was probably the positive of the weekend, watching him play in that halfback role for Penrith.
I think the elephant in the room needs to be addressed as well, and that's that, you know, yet again, these potential rep players come to our club or at our club and then don't get a Guernsey, right? And whilst we can say there is a positive for us in the fact that we now have Appy and Steph available to us week in, week out, I think it doesn't do us any favours at all in trying to attract players to the club, because it's just another example of come to the Tigers and you're not going to get picked for State of Origin. That might be a little bit melodramatic. In fact, yeah, it probably is, but it's still out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the issues with being a club that's consistently non-competitive. You know, I mean, yeah, why would you pick, or how could you justify really picking? You could make an argument to say, well, why should we pick someone from a team that's, you know, lost 8 games straight and is on the back of 2 wooden spoons? Like, yeah. So it's all part of the fun of being down the bottom, and it's the same with trying to negotiate contracts and things like that, where you've got to pay the extra. It's not a lot of fun, as we're all experiencing. Let's have a look at this Cowboys game. I've got, as I said, my one word as being youngsters. I've got here Matamua, who forever now will be known as the Loch Ness Monster, Eddie. Pole, Bulla, Falidi, Fainu and Galvin. Eddie, I'll ask you this, like, because you spoke a lot about it on the pod last week about Galvin and that, but I thought if there's one thing that we could take away from that game, it's that those youngsters stood up. They were our best performers, which was really, really great to see. We've been holding on and waiting for that to be the case, but that gave me a little bit of reason to be excited.
But both of them, Joel, that left side, Galvin and Samuel Fainu, just exceptional. I mean, I think it's almost probably going under the radar how good this Galvin is. I could imagine him playing for a Penrith or a Melbourne or a Roosters, but like, you're getting belted 22-0 and you've lost 7 in a row, and he doesn't take a step back from the contest. Like, he ran for like 190 metres, and the amount of times he stands up in tackles, like, he doesn't go to ground. I don't know what that is, whether that's just nous or strength or whatever, but I think he's a remarkable young footballer. Obviously, the couple of try assists were nice and silky, but just his overall game, his competitiveness, his want to be in the contest. We've just got to nurture him, and we've got to put better players around him. And then obviously Samuel Fainu, again, his competitiveness. I've been really impressed since he's gone to the starting back row, which is a much harder role than coming off the bench when everyone's tired after 25 minutes. But got a well-deserved try and even competing for bombs, stuff that some of our outside backs don't do. So those 2 youngsters, really, really good. I thought easily our best 2 on Friday night.
Probably lucky we didn't rest Galvin, Eddie.
Well, Gary, you can say that, but Yeah, you're right. Lucky we didn't rest him, or it would have been a much bigger scoreline. He was outstanding.
And I think he's like we spoke about that the other night, and I could see the benefit of giving him a break at some point as well. But he seems the type of person that's not going to take that well anyway. Like his competitiveness, I think he's going to want to play every game this season and do everything he can to get this team over the line in games. And you're right, like to be down how we were and to have a young guy stand up to lead us back into the game was super impressive. Yeah. And Fainu was fantastic as well. Like I can't rave enough about the games on Friday night.
And by the sound of it in the post-match press conference, when Benji was asked about it, it sounds like he's very much cemented that left back row position, which is great to see. And that no doubt has had something to do with the letting go of Isaiah Papali'i, which is all good. I wanted to talk, Steve, about Matamua's game. I thought, because we've spoken a lot on the pod over the last couple of years about who we play at lock and what that person brings, and Matamua has been mentioned, and he's had a few opportunities, but I thought our offense looked probably potentially as good as any time this year, which is not saying a lot, but maybe even better than any time this year with Matamua at lock. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, I thought he had a solid game. I don't think I'll go over the top with any more than solid. I thought he did his job well. What I noticed about him, probably for the first time I've really noticed was his footwork at the line. It's actually he's quite deceptive, and he's got very neat footwork when he gets to the line. I still haven't seen him, in that sort of that ball playing role consistently, and that's just going to happen over time to see whether he's got the skill set there. But there was some nice stuff, and we've sort of been waiting, keep saying, when are we going to see this stuff from Matamua? When are we going to see it? And maybe that was the start of it. Yeah, not too bad.
But for me, he had much better balance the other night. I think when we've seen him before, especially when you look back to that trial game last year, I think that's the biggest NRL standard sample size we have from him, where he was way too pass happy in that game. I think he had the balance better on Friday night of when to run and when to pass the ball. And I think that's the key for him moving forward, is picking those right times to hit the ball up and get the ball straight down the field, and the time's right when to play at the back to his halves. That's the crucial part for him moving forward over the next couple of months. And his game the other night, I think he deserves a decent shot in that position now. If not even if it's not to earn that position for next season, it's to show us what he's got. We've had him in our system now for a little while. Now's the time we need to see whether he can play at an NRL standard level week in, week out, because that's what we need from him. And that's what I'd be using the next couple of months for. I'll be starting him at 13 whenever he's available over the next couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. Fanua Pole off the bench, Eddie, I thought he was really impressive. Like, if you compare his game with Taumalolo, outplayed Taumalolo. I think it was probably one of... He is getting better and better, Pole. And sometimes we don't see it because we're fans and we're watching the game through slightly different glasses, but the impact that he had off the bench, I thought, was spectacular.
He has that ability, and I think it's key since they've tweaked the rules a few years ago, is just to get in between tacklers with his footwork. Like, he gets quick play the balls, and he tends to make 10 or 12 metres because of that footwork. He's got a little bit of work to do defensively. Sometimes he can get a bit lazy defensively, but he's definitely one of our few real impact forwards consistently throughout the year. Like, he's probably even been more consistent than the likes of Steph in terms of every week just providing some sort of impact in whatever role he was. So, no, he's going good, Polo.
I'll put my hand up to say that Felidi's been on my shredder list. He's been borderline shredder territory, but I thought he played very well. Diffused that bomb at the end of the first half. He did well there. I thought defensively he was pretty good for a guy playing his second game of first grade in the centres against some pretty silky opposition. Obviously Naden... I'll ask Gary that. I'll ask Gary, would you be picking Felidi on that performance over Naden if that's your choices over the next couple of months?
I don't want Naden playing with his discipline at the moment. For me, that last game was probably the final straw for me. I think I was hoping he could fix the fading in and out of games and the ill discipline issues that he has, because there's potentially a really good centre there. But Naden hasn't been able to fix that. And I don't think we should be continuing down that path. Of the list with Richo overseas, he's got to be the prime candidate one of the prime candidates to be moving on somewhere else, because, I can't play him anymore. And Felitti was really strong on the weekend. We've got to remember, I think he definitely deserves more time, because he's a guy who's only 20, playing his second game, and while there's still a lot for him to work on, that was a big step in the right direction, a big improvement on the game that he played at the end of last season. So I'm willing to give him some more time. I don't think he's an NRL standard centre yet, but our squad across the park's not NRL standard, and I think he's probably the best bet moving forward.
Yeah, I think we've got to focus on those outside backs for next season. I think for sure Felitti needs to be given more opportunity this season to show what he's got and develop, and he's only young, so he's not going to be able to show us that much, because he's so inexperienced. But we really need to think about going to market in that outside backs. Like that fella, is it Alamala? Is that how you say it? Alamala on the wing. He's just so far out of his depth. It's not funny, which is a pity, because I thought he might have been able to go all right. Casey, absolutely nothing. So we've got Olam in the centre. Staines still can't bring the ball back with any penetration at all. So if we're going to do any good next year, we're going to have to strengthen that area in our side.
Yeah, I think we're 3 outside backs short of a starting squad. So I'm at for our 13. So I think I think we actually need 3 more outside backs to have a decent starting side next year. So there's a lot of work to be done in that area.
No, I just thought that was a little segue into my new segment, Joel. I might just I've gone into the lab this week and I've had a look at some of the stats, and Gary's got a grin because I think he knows what I'm going to say. But you guys are going on and on and on about our outside backs, our wingers and centres. How about our fullback? Like, our fullback is a very important position. And a modern-day fullback, you're either got to be like an Energizer bunny, like you've got to be everywhere, or you've got to have a bit of speed. You certainly got to impact the scoreboard. And, like, I don't want to crucify Buller because he's a decent young player and he doesn't make many mistakes, but he's made 1 line break all year. So that's 0.1 per game. So 1 line break in 11 games. He's got 1 try assist in 11 games. That's right down the bottom of the NRL, not just for fullbacks, for players in the NRL. And then I had a look at some of the backup. Well, I don't want to compare him to Drinkwater, but that's unfair. But Drinkwater on the weekend, 3 try assists, 3 line break assists, 4 tackle breaks, 72 kick return meters. But like backup fullbacks, like this, I don't even know his name, Kino Keeney for the Gold Coast today. I mean, he was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And I just think this malaise that he plays with. There's no speed, there's no intent. He made 8 kick return meters on the weekend, 8. And I just think the modern game, that people go on and on and on about a lack of halves, which is true. There's not a lack of fullbacks in the game. There are backup fullbacks in the NRL that are killing it at the moment. Like David Armstrong's killing it at the Knights. Blaze Talangi's killing it. Even Zalesniak for the Warriors. He's a winger. He played at fullback today and he was all over the field. So I think when we talk of outside backs needing 3 out of 5, I think we need to go looking for a fullback. And that's not to say Buller's not in our best squad. Definitely a top 30 player. Could potentially be in line to be an option at fullback. But I'm more convinced now than ever that that's an area we need to look at.
Yeah, I didn't mention him then when I was just talking about our inability to bring the ball back, because I thought he played a stronger game this last weekend than he has been over the last month or two. I thought he did some very good things, despite your stats there, Eddie. But you're right. You can't argue with what you're saying. I think one of the things, I've said this before, it goes unnoticed, is his defensive work. His defence is just top notch, and as a young fullback, that's only going to get better. So he's got that in his favour. But he he is a lightweight, and he's going to need help. So if we do strengthen the other four of the back five, then I think that will help him. But yeah, he needs to be more involved. He's not progressing this season as we would have liked him to.
I thought echoing those thoughts, Steve. I thought that was probably his best game of the year so far. I thought he played well against the Cowboys. Gary, I know you got some points to make. Sorry, Eddie.
No, go. I'm surprised you guys thought that was one of his better games of the years. I know stats, and look, stats can tell the story you want. So obviously my stats are going to favour the argument I'm putting together. But I'd argue stats like try assist, line breaks are stats that affect the scoreboard. I'll look at his game on the weekend. 15 runs, 97 metres. Okay, pretty average. 8 kick return metres. No line breaks, no line break assists, no tackle breaks. Not one tackle break for a fullback. There were fullbacks on the weekend that broke 5, 6, 7 tackles. That's about running the mill.
Yeah, and you're not incorrect with your argument, definitely. I was going to make the point that if you look at some of the best fullbacks in the game, they didn't start and get thrown straight into first grade without a whole lot of experience, or when they did get put into first grade, they started on the wing. Tuivasa-Sheck, Tedesco, they spent time on the wing getting to know what it is to be a first grader before having that key position thrust upon them. And we've done it pretty, Gary, with Buller, he pretty much came in and was 0 to 100 straight away. We haven't been able to ease him into that role. Do you think that maybe that's something that we could have done differently to help him build up his voice and his experience rather than going straight into the number one?
It probably is something we could have done a little bit differently. I also don't think so. During the juniors, I don't think he played a lot of time at fullback in the juniors either. And then he went away and played basketball, and then came back to the Tigers. Didn't spend much time in the lower grades at all, and from round 10 last year has started at fullback for us. So I think he's learning that fullback role on the job. What I'd like to see from him is support through the middle a little bit more. We tend to use him on those shift players, those block plays, those sweeping plays that we do. And we're not running those well at all, not just Buller, not as a club. We're running them towards the sideline, and we're running them at an angle, and we're running guys out of room. And Buller's both part of the problem for that, and partly a victim of that, is that we don't give him space to really show what he can do, but he doesn't also straighten for the players outside him as well. So that compounds the issue as we get wider when we run those sweep plays. What I'd like to see him do is actually follow through up the middle, follow the halves up the middle a little bit more, follow the forwards up the middle a little bit more, and us use him in a slightly different way. If you remember back to the Cowboys game, that Bateman try we scored to close out that big victory we had at Leichhardt Oval, that was a play where he followed up the middle and got an inside ball at pace. And I think we don't do enough of that. All we're giving him is ball in a position where the entire back line is angling towards the sideline. And while I think that he could be playing better, I also think that we could be using him a little bit better. So I think that's something coaching-wise we need to have a little bit of a look at.
I don't know if this was his fault or not, Gary, but I remember one of the turning points in the match. I thought it was about 40 seconds before half-time. Cowboys had someone in the bin. Appy goes straight through. And Lockie Galvin's the guy backing up on the inside. So I don't know if that's him just being out of position or whether that's unfair, because I haven't seen the replay on that. But certainly that's where the likes of, Hammer and those guys, they're just there and it's a try.
Well, and one of the differences on Friday night was Hammer's backing up through the middle like he did. And we don't see that at all from Buller. And in fact, if you think back to the fullbacks that we've had over the last couple of years, we haven't seen it from any of them. We are using them as that kind of second 5'8" who chimes into the back line to try and create on your plays or to execute your sweep plays.
Or is that his fault?
Look, it's the structure you're playing under. Because you can't be in those sweep plays and be supporting up the middle at the same time. It's just physically impossible to be in both those positions. what you can do is through those early tackles is you can sniff around the forwards, and he could probably take it on his own back to do a little bit more of that. But I think the whole way we run our block plays is very clunky, very cumbersome. Look, and when I talk about that, when you look at the trials we played at the start of the season, we weren't running any block plays at all. So the fact that we are developing them is a positive, but they're still not to the standard and the speed and the pace and the aggression that other sides run them at. We kind of run them like it's a training run and you're just making sure you're getting into the right positions for them. So there's a lot of work to be done there, but I'd definitely like to see Buller going through the middle a lot more than he is.
It's also symptomatic of where we are as a football club and where we've been as a football club for a very long time. You know, like this has got Woods, Moses, Tedesco all over it again. You know, here we are a decade later, and we've got the same problems emerging. We're putting so much pressure on these young guys, like the Bullers of the world, the Galvins of the world. Like, I agree with what you were saying, Eddie. It'd be awesome if we could actually drop Galvin back for a couple of weeks and let him cool his heels in reserve grade. You know, just so he doesn't burn out. Like, at the moment, he was out for a couple of weeks, and our fan base is in hysterics because we don't have an 18-year-old to guide us around the paddock. Now, you know, hopefully that's going to change a little bit next year with Luai coming, but yeah, it's just a concern that when we've got guys like Naden and Olam in the team and Caesar, but Caesar's been doing his job, I reckon, that should be as good experienced first grade footballers should be helping these blokes. They're not. It's the other way around. Right? It's these young blokes that are supporting them, and that's just criminal, and it shouldn't be the case. So when you look at it that way, it's not about coaching. It's not about, you know, strategy on the field, like it is, but there's more to it than that. There's the fact that our squad is just got so many players in it that are underperforming for what they should be. These young guys have to play out of their skin every week, and they just can't do it.
I think that's why our CEO is currently in England with a list of players he's trying to get rid of. I think that's probably what we're looking to address right now, is that exact point that you just raised, Steve.
And if you look at it from the perspective of where the club is at least we're able to say, and I know it's only based on one performance, but we're able to say, well, the players that we don't want to put through the shredder are typically the younger players, and the players that we don't mind seeing adios to are the older players, which is a pretty good place to be. It's going to be very interesting to see what that UK trip brings. I would throw a name up that may be a bit of a fly in the ointment of all of this. That is Taruva, who can and would be quite interested in playing fullback. So I wonder if that may change the dynamic if we look into 2025 and you've got a guy there that may be better suited to the modern game playing at fullback. That may change things a little bit for Jureen Buller, Gary.
At least the pressure that it puts on. There's going to be a genuine competition for that position next year, I believe. Taruva, we've spoken about how Luai played yesterday. Taruva ran for something like 220 metres or something in that game yesterday and was outstanding as well. So, and when I did say we needed 3 more outside backs, there's one of them there. I probably should have remembered that and mentioned that because he was outstanding yesterday. I'd prefer to see him stay on the wing because he does do a really good job of getting the set started for Penrith. Even though he's not a massive guy, he's short and stocky, but I think he starts their sets quite well. And but he could very well be. I'm sure he's interested in that fullback role. So at least there's going to be competition for that spot, and it won't be just one person kind of knowing it's theirs.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, Gary. I think it's competition for that spot. This is an interesting debate. I'm not sure if I'm on the money with this or not, but I can't see Buller, if he lost his fullback spot to Taruva, for example, I can't see us putting him out on the wing. I think he's too lightweight for the modern game. I don't think he's going to be of any benefit to the football team on the wing, I think we're going to be in the same position this year where he's just going to get driven backwards every time we're trying to start a set. So to me, if he's not in fullback first grade, he's in fullback reserve grade, building his skill set.
I think there is a possibility that you could play him at centre. I would like to see him have a little bit more bulk if he's playing at centre, but I think that's probably an option if he's not playing in that fullback role.
Just one more in the backs. Alex Lobb made his debut. Nobody saw it coming. Came on as the 18th.
I don't think he did.
No, exactly. 18th man. Benji said in the post-match press conference he'll get another go. Look, he doesn't look to be overly fast, but he looks to be somebody who may be worth giving a go to. Would you be upset if he got a game next round, Gary? What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I think, I don't think he was anything outstanding in the small amount of time he played. What I did see is a guy that went out there and competed really hard and was trying to get as involved as he could. And I think at times he looked a bit awkward trying to in his roles, but that could be just coming into a game that you weren't even expected to get a run in. So it would be interesting to see. I don't think he has anything to offer other than being on the wing. I can't see you playing him anywhere else. But it would be interesting to see. He's at least got a little bit of height and could be a target out on that wing.
Yeah, that's true. Also in the post-match press conference, Benji said that he took responsibility for not having the halves ready to control the game. So I think that probably you'd say that is aimed at Sullivan, who I thought had a much better game, not a fantastic game, but he's not a game controlling halfback, Eddie. He's a guy that's got a bit of a running game, but we're struggling with having that player there that's able to control the game.
No, I think looking forward to Caesar getting back, and Sullivan has improved the last few games. He was coming off a pretty low base, how he started with us, but he definitely, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but he does look most dangerous, like you said, Joel, when he's running. That's when he looks like he could break the line. But just on Benji, that was a sort of interesting comment. I wonder why he threw that out there, Joel. He was taking a fair bit of accountability and saying that's my job, game management, because we have seen bad game management this year and just poor discipline in moments that have cost us. But my throwback question to him, if I was a journalist, Joel, which I'm not, but if I was in that room, or if I'm Shane Richardson, I'm going, well, Benji, that's well and good. I think you've done a really good job this year, actually, but you're lacking in your coaching staff. You know, if you really want to be accountable and learn, get some more experience in your coaching staff. And you can't do that mid-year, obviously, but I think it's quite glaring at the moment. I don't want to keep singling out Robbie Farah, but I know John Morris is in charge of the defence, and I think that's shown a lot of improvement, despite I know there's been a couple of big scorelines. But, you know, Robbie Farah, Chris Hyington, there's just no experience there. I'm looking at guys that are now on the sideline, like a Brad Arthur or even a Demetrio. You know, they could be highly paid assistants that could be, I think, really valuable for a young side like us.
Eddie, you put the question up about the press conference. I reckon that was chapter 1 out of the Wayne Bennett playbook. I think he was just taking all the pressure off his players and putting all the pressure on himself. I think that is what he was doing. But just to your point, I think a Brad Arthur type player, I'd much prefer Brad Arthur than Demetrio. Just think the mess at South's sort of
Agree.
smelt a little bit of poor leadership. So I think I'd prefer a Brad Arthur type character, but I think that someone like that, if he was willing to come in as a, assistant, would be awesome.
But it raises an interesting question, doesn't it? When you've got a guy that's in his first year of coaching, it's very hard to bring somebody in who's got 10 years plus of experience to be his assistant. Like it does create a slightly unusual environment, Gary.
It can be an issue. But I think good leaders surround themselves with really good people who can support them in areas they're weak in. And to do that, you need experienced people around you. So for a good leader, it shouldn't be an issue. And Benji's is showing at the moment that he does have really good leadership qualities. So it's just about how you approach it. Just because someone's more experienced than you doesn't mean it's something to be feared. And I think as a good leader, you recognise that and you bring in the people who can assist you best.
Yeah, just on Brad Arthur. Like, I've never seen a guy handle a situation with so much class this week. And, like, that's one thing, Joel, I think you're alluding to, is that trust. Like, if you're a first-year coach and you've got a 10-year guy coming in as assistant, you'd be thinking, oh, my God, 3 bad games, I'm going to get the sack. But a guy like Brad Arthur, I think you could trust him to come in and just help you. I'm not saying Brad Arthur would want to do that because he wants to be probably a head coach, and I think he will get another job in time. But if I'm Shane Richardson at the moment, I'm looking at where we can improve. Obviously, the roster's huge, but I just look at that inexperience in the coaching staff. And a guy like Brad Arthur, why can't you pay him $700,000, $800,000 a season to be an assistant coach? Is there rules against that? I don't think there are.
There is a football operations spend cap, so it would just depend on what other people kind of around the football department are on.
There's also other guys that are experienced assistants that could come into the mix. I mean, guys like Jim Dimmick come to mind that have been around and have been experienced assistants, haven't quite made the move up. You know, Steve Georgalis was another. There's quite a few out there. The guy that we had for a number of years, whose name escapes me. So there's other options. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some shifting in that coaching box over this off season, because that's not Shane Richardson's coaching lineup. Interestingly, though, Demetrio and John Morris worked together at South, so I don't know if that would necessarily create maybe a little bit more tension because they sort of know each other in that space, but I think it's going to be something that will be discussed. So we'll wait and see with that. Did anybody see Alex Twal scoring a try in that game? Like, there was not much to give us. I mean, we smiled when the Tigers scored, but there's not much to give us a bit of a smile. But I did get a bit of a smile when he got his second try. That was good to see, and it was just like his first one, where not a huge amount of skill was required, but it's still a second try for him, which was excellent to see. So after 8 losses and teetering on the bottom of the table, because we walk away from that game a little bit confused. I'm a bit confused. After 20 minutes, I'm thinking we're terrible. Kick us out of the competition. Let's go play a New South Wales Cup. At 50 minutes, I'm thinking to myself, we're on our way. We're moving in the right direction. What are our predictions moving forward from here? Souths are buffeting us only on for and against from the dreaded last place. We've got the bye this week. What are our predictions from here for the rest of the year, Steve? Do you see this as being a bit of a turning point? Do you see us moving maybe to another 2 or 3 wins, maybe?
No, I can't. I can't, Joel. What's exceptionally disappointing for me is they just can't string 80 minutes together. And until they can do close to that, they're not going to win NRL football games. There was enough out of last week's game just to say that this side can play football, and there's absolute fight in this team, and they are a united squad. That's obvious because at 20-0 down, that could have been 100. It really could have, and it didn't. They came back, but they did the same thing that they always do. They came back and they just got us excited. They got us within 4 points. That here we go, we can win this game, and then we blow it. And we lose our concentration. We make a critical error. We make schoolboy standard errors, and then the game's gone. And the opposition, and as Eddie has said, and I reckon it's a great point, that every team can be so competitive, right? Every team. And they just put the hammer down and bang, the game's gone. So I can't see us. We might get away with 1 or 2 with a bit of luck if we get a refereeing decision never goes our way. Maybe we'll win a couple of games, but until we can put 80 minutes together, which this squad just can't seem to do, we're not going to win too many more.
But for me, that inability to play for 80 minutes comes down to the quality of the roster. Our roster isn't strong enough. And for us to be competitive, we're going to be redlining it the whole time. Our players need to be playing at that 110% of their ability to be competitive in games. And when you're having to play at your max constantly just to be competitive, when you fall away from that during parts in games, that's when you start to make those schoolboy errors. That's when you start to fall off tackles. That's when you start to make those dumb decisions. Because you can't play on that red line the whole time. The quality sides, they're playing at 80 to 90% of their ability for most of the match. And when they hit their 100%, that's when they're blowing teams away. And we don't have the quality of roster to do that. We're playing at our maximum just to stay in games. And for me, that's where that issue comes from. That's why over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen teams, West Tigers teams, that can compete and can score some great tries and can do some great things, but then they turn around and do something stupid because they're playing above their level for just to stay in games. And until we get that roster sorted, until we get players of a higher standard, that's what we're going to see from the West Tigers. We're going to see them, and maybe every now and then they can put it together and play that 80 minutes of football at a really high level, and you win those games like we did against Parramatta last year and Parramatta this year, and well, not so much Parramatta this year, but the Sharks game at the start of the season was a game where we competed fairly highly for 80 minutes. But they're really rare. Like, we've won like 4 games a year for the last couple of years, and this year looks fairly similar. Until we improve that quality of that roster to a point where we don't have to play at our maximum ability just to stay competitive, then playing 60 minutes of football, 40 minutes of football a week is kind of what we're going to see.
I don't think any of us would disagree that we're still behind the pack, absolutely, but it's going to shift at some stage. It's going to happen at some stage. So I'm a little more optimistic than I was a week ago. I thought I saw some signs there that have me thinking that at very least confidence is up. And that's where it was a blessing that we didn't capitulate and didn't lose by 50 or 60. Then I would have thought it would have been a very, very dark, very long end of 2024, which was similar to when we sacked Maguire and Kamali came in. That was just bleak and bleak. So I've got some hope there that there's a little bit of confidence, and there's a bit of confidence, I think, fundamentally in the people that are coming in, like the Galvins, who aren't used to losing. So if we can just sort of remain competitive and jag a couple of wins, then I think we're in a not too bad a place with some reinforcements coming in the off season for 2025. I will throw this because Clem has been suspended for goodness knows what. I don't know how he ended up with that big suspension, but there's a guy who's 192 centimetres tall. He's 131 kilos, only 19 years of age. Plays at prop. His name is Jordan Miller. Do we throw him in off the bench, Eddie? What do you think? We just keep giving the youngsters a go? I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah, I've never seen him play in my life. So, I mean, I know Declan's been talking about him for 12 months or more. So, definitely, off the bench, something like that. Those next couple of games are games against a couple of the what you'd call winnable games, Dragons and Titans at Leichhardt. But just on that, you mentioned Clemmer. I mean, this hip drop thing is just, I'm just totally confused. I mean, Todd Payton, that was a bizarre rant he went on. When Papali'i got stopped, he didn't mention in his 4-minute rant that Papali'i's out for 8 weeks or something with a broken ankle or whatever he was. He seemed to have no sympathy or awareness about that. But obviously our guy, Clemmer, who didn't injure anyone, has copped 3 weeks. So that's great.
Yeah, that's the NRL for you. Gary?
Yeah, that Jordan Miller selection, there's not a lot when you have a look in that reserve grade side to really bring up. I think it's actually down to probably him and Sione Fainu who kind of comes onto the bench. So I don't think he's that far away. I expect to see him at some point during the season because he has been getting better and better as the season's kind of progressed. He spent a fair bit of time in the flag side and has now moved up into that New South Wales Cup side, and played quite well a couple of weeks ago. I didn't see the game that the Magpies played today, but the results didn't look too good from it, so I don't know what sort of game he had today. And that will probably come down to that decision between him and Sione for next, not next week, the week after.
Or you could use the old El Paso, why not have both? Just pick both of them on the bench. What have we got to lose?
Well, it's definitely a possibility because we are quite short.
Exactly. Okay, Steve, we mentioned Shane Richardson going off to the United Kingdom, and you can all have your say, and I'll chime in at the end. If we could use our magic wand or use our Christmas wish, what would we like Shane Richardson to come back with other than offloading a few of our existing players? What would you love him to come back tucked in his briefcase when he gets back to Mascot?
Oh, well, I don't know. I can't name players. I don't follow, the Super League over there at all. But if he is offloading players, what I'd like him to come back with are a couple of players that are going to be impactful for our top 30 for next year, obviously, right? So, question without notice, where would I be looking? Well, I still reckon we need a front rower. I'm not convinced on Matamua. I think we need a lock or someone in the back row there. We definitely need outside backs. I think our halves are pretty set. I'm reasonably confident Buller's going to keep going at fullback. But yeah, in those key positions, what did I just say? Front row, back row, outside backs. One of each, please.
A Gareth Ellis clone would be perfect, wouldn't it, Gary? Someone in the back row Fainer's doing a great job, but somebody on that other edge that can have an impact and be that sort of almost that forward leader in the second row would be ideal for our team.
Yeah, the first thing I want him to do while he's over there is find a new home for Sullivan and Naden. Like, if we get that sorted, that's half the battle won. Having a look at outside backs, if you have a look over the last 10 years or so, I don't think there's been many English players that have come over as outside backs and really made that transition their own. So I'd probably be looking in Australia for an outside back.
Dom Young's from the UK, isn't he?
He is, but he also came over when he was very young, and got into the systems over here quite young. So I think that's a possibility as well, though, is that we will look at some younger players to bring over and get into our pathway system. But if we're looking for NRL ready players, I think we're better to focus on the forwards over there. And I'd be looking for that hard-nosed, aggressive prop as my main priority when doing that. But yeah, a wide-running second rower, similar to Sam Fainu, wouldn't go astray.
Eddie, there's been a couple of names mentioned, but without going into specifics of who's been mentioned as possible targets, I don't think Richardson's the kind of guy that's going to go at this juncture in where he's at in the club without there being some specific target. I think you can negotiate selling Brent Naden to Wakefield or something over Zoom, but there has to be something going on, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think that's been the good thing about this year, Joel, is there's really been no chaos around us on this 8-game losing streak. Like, it seems like it's a tight ship there, and that's part of the reason we tried to make some of those changes last year. You guys led that, and even though the results aren't turning, as a fan that watches every week and follows the club every day, that is a point of difference this year. So I would think there is some sort of plan. I don't know what that is. I remember, I don't know if it was Andrew Johns or Brad Fittler said they always used to go over and spend a few weeks in, the islands in Fiji or something. Because I'd love to find just some big, powerful, fast guy that you could teach the rules of the game. Or I can't remember, there was a Dragons winger that came out years ago, which they literally picked up from Fiji. It was playing Union or something. I just think we need one of those outside backs that can just has speed to burn, because we have to work so hard for some of our tries this year. So I don't have any names or any things like that, but I think the scouting system will be far and wide.
You come back via Fiji, but that is a little bit slightly the long way around, Steve.
Yeah, look, I don't quite understand the whole Papali'i thing, and I have to admit, last couple of weeks I haven't been as focused on the footy as normal. But I would have to think, like my understanding is that the Tigers have said to Papali'i he can look, and then bang, he's gone to Penrith, right? That's the way it happened. It wasn't a case of Papali'i screaming blue murder and wanting to get out. That's my understanding. Now, they may have covered it up, it may have been, and they've just decided to let him go. But if it's not, if it is them saying we want to free up a roster spot, we don't think he's the bloke for the future, and with Richardson, with the experience that he's got in the game and the way he manages things, he's got to have someone lined up, surely, to be letting Papali'i. Now, like, I'm the first one to say Papali'i has not been the player that we wanted him to be. But he is a international experienced footballer. And if we're letting him look out the door a year early in his contract, this is not, like the idiots aren't running the asylum, right?
Not anymore.
This is Richardson. So there's got to be something lined up, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is that we as fans are so used to the club being run a certain way that when somebody comes in and runs it a different way, we've kind of got to relax a little bit and let him do his job, because I think you're absolutely right. I think that Richardson, who likes to make statements like, you can be filled up on, just as much on, I don't know, what do you say? Well, I don't know, meat. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know, prime rib or something. It's a lot. You can fill up on the cheaper meat. I think basically what he's doing is he's looking at the roster, saying, well, if we're paying this guy $650 and we're getting $450's worth of output, then that guy is going to get moved on. I think that's sort of how Richardson does it. Gary?
Yeah, the only name I can kind of suggest is there's been a bit of talk around the Warrington Wolves player Nicholson, who is looking to come to the NRL, who's quite highly rated. I think he either plays prop or in the back row. So he's a forward that's looking to come out here, and there's been a fair bit of interest in him. So with him making that announcement and telling Warrington in the past week or so that he's looking to come to the NRL, maybe there's a meeting or something set up to speak to him while Richardson's over there. So that's the only kind of name that I know that there's a little bit of talk around coming over at the moment, and all reports would probably be a pretty good addition to the squad, but yeah, I know nothing about it.
You're joining the dots, Gary. We're all joining
just
the
some
dots.
like
not get too
reading some writing in Braille and getting it wrong.
Exactly, Eddie.
Joel, you can operate just as well on rump steak as fillet steak. That's what you were looking for, wasn't it? Unfortunately, we have to operate on the $2 RSL steak at times, with our playing roster. So I don't know if we can operate.
Yeah, a little bit of chuck.
Maybe Eddie, you could put some caveat on your steak.
Some caviar.
I'm gonna check the info of that one, Joel. I'm pretty sure I got that one right.
Well, I'm willing to put. I'm willing to
100% said caviar.
put $100 on it.
The podcast, like
Gary. Yeah, I listened to it after. You 100% said caviar.
And the Loch Ness Monster, and as I put on the forum, asking the Scotsman about the Loch Ness Monster, I thought that was fantastic.
Where is the Scotsman? Is he alive?
He's as hard to come by as the Loch Ness Monster. You only see him once a year.
I think he's looking for the Loch Ness Monster.
Yes, exactly. All right, guys. What's the plan, Eddie? When are you gonna? We're gonna have a nice rest from the West Tigers podcast. We're on bye week, or
I haven't thought that far ahead, Joel. I don't even know what's happening tomorrow, let alone Wednesday. But we do have the bye this week. That's exciting. I was looking forward to that round 1 bye. I'm even more looking forward to this round 12 or 13 bye.
Yeah, it'll be
I
nice.
want to watch footy.
You can still watch footy, Gary. You just don't have to watch us lose.
I'd prefer to watch us play.
Yeah, no, I'm very much. It's a mental health break. Definitely, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
boys.